Hey everyone, welcome back to this episode of Kart Crazy. This is part 2 of a multi-part series where we're rebuilding a 2012 Club Car Precedent that I've named Chicken Little. Come along for the ride, let's get started. Alright, so we're back out at the shop, and a couple things I'd like to get accomplished on this video. And I don't know if you got a real good look at it last time, but this is our major issue right here. We've got big time front end suspension problems that we're going to address. I'm going to show you how to rebuild basically the whole front end. I don't know if you can see that slop in the steering, which is a concern. And also, I talked about it a little bit last time, but excuse me, we've got some brake drag hanging up on these. You can kind of see that it doesn't really spin when I try to move it there. So we've definitely got to get those brakes tore apart. It's probably corrosion and or mud, sand built in there, packed in there. So we got to address that. The only concern with that is I got to kind of reassemble just a little bit. I've got to put our floorboard back down in here and our brake pedal so that we can fool with those brakes. But we'll worry about that a little bit later. For the most part, we're going to start on this front end, do a basic tear down on that, and then picked up these bushings on Amazon. Gotta love the company name, 10LOL. I mean, does it get any better than that? Gotta be right from China. So the good news is $18.99. Should be able to rebuild basically the whole front end with the exception of the wheel bearings, which we may or may not do depending on how bad those are, so we'll take a look at those as well. So let me get a couple things set here and we'll tear this apart. Alright, so basically I'm going to start with just a quick simple disassembly, pull the front wheels off, and then probably pull our rack and pinion out of the way so we can get in here a little easier, and I'll show you what we got going on. Alright, grabbed, spun the wheels off quick and took our rack and pinion off. One thing I did not account for is these bushings and these spindles are also bad. So I'm going to have to jump back online and order some of those. I was hoping to get this all done today, but looks like it's going to set us back just a little bit. Not a big deal. We've still got plenty of other things we can do. So now that we've got everything out of the way, we can pull our 13mm bolts out and we can re-sleeve these control arm bushings, both the uppers and the lowers, and then like I said, I'll reorder, I didn't order them yet, what we need to get for those spindle mounts. So I'll lower the camera down a little bit and y'all can watch as we do this. Alright, 4 bolts and those pop out, not too bad. And you can see what we're dealing with here. There's basically no bushing whatsoever left. So, dump all the rust out. May have to clean these out a little bit with a wire brush or a die grinder. And basically just reassemble with the new stuff. Alright, well, pretty straightforward and simple. You can see the pile of rust and old parts we've got on the floor here. And of course this job would go a lot better with a vise and an air hammer, which I don't have here at the house at the moment. But just to show you, even if you have just basic hand tools, hammer, punches, pry bars, you can get this job done. Of course it's a lot easier because I've got the whole cart tore apart without the body on it. You can still do it obviously with the body on. You're just contending with a few things in your way. I did end up pulling the upper shocks off just to kind of give me the leverage I needed to get everything put back together. So run some bolts back in there and that'll be back in one piece. All right, I'm going to focus my attention on these rear brakes, so we'll pull the wheels off and dig into that. Well, I think I found the problem in the rear brakes. Yeah, years and years of mud and corrosion building up in there. All of our components, they're basically froze. So we'll have to pull these apart, probably wire wheel everything, and get everything functioning the way it's supposed to. Well, much of the same on this side, if not even a little worse. So best thing to do at this point is just pull everything completely apart, and like I said, get it cleaned up, lube it up, and then reassemble, and the brakes should work like they should. I maybe could order some new shoes as well. Probably even the drums. Everything just looks really, really rough here, so I'm going to have to make a determination on what I'm going to do there, but we at least need to get it apart. Well, the more I dig into this, the worse it gets. Shoes are definitely shot. They're basically paper thin or non-existent. So I think our best bet at this point, and I got to looking online a little bit, checking out parts and availability. I was just going to go ahead and order shoes and drums and kind of reuse the hardware, but they actually make a whole assembly with the backing plate and everything. You can just slide on all new parts, hook your brake cable back up, and you're good to go. So that seems like a much better option than spending probably literally hours trying to clean you know, these hardware components up. So got to looking and see there's a snap ring down in here. Of course, we'd have to pull that axle out of the tube in order to get our backing plate off and our whole assembly off. So I think I can get down in here. Ideally would be a snap ring pliers at a 45, which I don't have one here at home. But I think I can get down in here with a pick and get that snap ring out. We'll slide that tube out, and then we can take our whole backing plate assembly off in one piece, like I said. So we'll give that a whirl. Alright, changed my mind again. I forgot that these axles are actually pressed in. There's a pressed in bearing that goes into the housing. I did get the snap ring out. You can probably see it laying in there. Got to thinking, I think I'm better off just getting shoes and hardware. Our backing plate is fine. It's not bent or rusted. I might be opening up a whole new can of worms, pulling that axle out. Then I got to put axle seals in and the whole bit, which isn't a terribly big job and not that big of a deal, but just more parts and more work. So if I get a complete shoe kit with the hardware, and then we'll replace what comes with the kit and reuse what we can. So I'm going to have to get those parts ordered before we can continue on with that. Alright, after fiddling with this some more, I changed my mind again. That whole backing plate setup is looking really attractive at this point because, and I'll show you, everything is just so crusty and nasty. Here's a better look at those shoes. So I ran to the warehouse and grabbed my air hammer. I think I'm going to just pop these axles out and take my chances that we don't run into any more, like I said, open up a can of worms and run into more problems because that's going to be so much nicer to have all new backing plate, new shoes, new hardware. I mean, if I had a bead blasting cabinet, we could probably throw these in and clean them up. Everywhere I looked online, You can buy the shoes and the springs and the hold downs, but nobody was selling this stuff, which means it's probably going to be, you know, like a Club Car exclusive or something like that. So I'm going to see if these axles will pop out. And if they do, like I said, I've got the snap ring removed already. Hopefully you can see that. Got in there with a pick. I did grab some 90-degree snap ring pliers while I was out. So hopefully the other side will go a little better. If that's the case, and this will pop out with the air hammer, then it's just a matter of 4 bolts. When that new backing plate comes in with all the hardware I've ordered, we'll bolt that in. The cable seems to be moving free. There's no issue there. We can slap the new drums on and we will be in business super, super easy. So let's see what happens. Well, guys, it is not budging. Being from up north in the Rust Belt, you think I would have some good penetrating oil, but I don't. I've got WD-40, which probably is going to do next to nothing. Not that I don't believe in WD-40, but it's not really a real good penetrating oil. So we'll soak this and leave it sit, and then come back and try it a little later. Maybe it'll break free. I thought about pulling that other side apart, which I might do. See if that side pops out. It's definitely a trick to get these snap rings out. You can't see it real good, or at least I can't. And then once you do get it, oh, there. Okay, never mind. Well, as you can tell, that side's not coming out any easier, so I think I'll get a drip pan, another drip pan, and soak this one down, let them maybe sit overnight, and then we'll try them again in the morning. Alright, after changing my mind about 18 times and messing around with this, with the air hammer, these are just not moving. Those axles are frozen there. I could get a slide hammer probably and try to get them out, but I think it's just not worth the aggravation. So we're gonna cheat a little bit here, and hey Alexa, order me brake parts for a Club Car Precedent. Hey, look at that. So what I did is went ahead and ordered these, like I think I talked about. It's like a week later, so I've forgotten everything I said last week, so if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. The plan was pull these axles out, obviously, slide these on, and be on our merry way. Being the axles aren't coming out, we're going to clean these up a little bit, bolt those backing plates back on, and then we'll just steal all the hardware and everything we need off of these new ones and go that route. So same principle basically, just a different way of getting there. Alright, and just like that, we've got some brake shoes on and some brake hardware. Trying to get some good views here for you. It's probably a little shadowy, I know, but what I did manage to do is I stole some grease off of the ones that they had sent and just kind of used my finger and smeared it back on, just because I really don't have the right stuff, and that's probably better than nothing. Now we can make our adjustments down here as we need to when we put the drum on. And then I see my clamp got a little stretched trying to get everything apart because it was seized in there, so we'll reclamp that down and then put the pin back in for our cable. And then just basically repeat the process on the other side. I got to put my studs back in. They kind of rattled out when I was rattling on it with the air hammer. So there, we'll be buttoned up with that here in just a minute. And then on this side, or on the front, I needed new bushings. like I told you, and going to take these apart. These nuts came off really hard, and I see the threads got a little boogered. I didn't know how wore the shaft was, so it was only a couple bucks more just to get the spindle mount and everything, and then we'll air hammer our bushings out, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. So then our front end will be basically completely rebuilt. I even got new hubs, so we can mess with that as soon as we get the rear brakes done. So let me button up the rear brakes, and then we'll move on to the front. All right, rear brakes complete-ish for now. We can't really do any adjusting or anything until we get our floorboard and our pedals and everything back in here, and we can do all our adjustment up in the pedal rod, which is probably buried over here somewhere, and it needs to be cleaned and everything else. But for right now, we're going to dig into these bushings, replace that, I guess we'll call it a knuckle, and then take the bushings out of the spindle, put the new ones in, new rubber bushings down here, and just kind of rebuild this whole front end. So here we go. Finally wised up and brought my air hammer home. That makes that job a lot more enjoyable. There we go. Alright, tried to clean as much of that old grease and stuff out of there as we could. And be careful with these, pounding them in. I use a soft face, or you know, not a regular hammer, because you don't want to chip these. These chip pretty easy, being that they're brass. But then it's just a matter of reassembling. And there's probably a torque spec on that top nut, and I usually just go until my shoulder pops, and then I know it's good. But yeah, we firmed that right up. I don't know if you remember how much slop there was in this front end when we started, but much better. All the bushings, brass bushings, rubber bushings. We are just about ready for rocking and rolling down the road here. So I'll repeat this exact process on the other side. Air hammer our bushings out, new hubs, and yeah, we can start moving on to some other progress. Alright, we got this side buttoned up. Basically just repeated the process that we did on the other side. New bushings and new rubber bushings on the bottom. So that's looking a lot better, but the shop is a mess. It's starting to look like the stock room at the Dollar General, for crying out loud. But we're going to get this cleaned up, and we'll talk about a couple other things here in just a second. One last thing I wanted to do was new hub and bearing assemblies, but that's super simple, and I'm not going to put it completely on just yet because I got some painting and stuff I want to do, but literally it's just a matter of sliding that on and putting the nut on. So, well, I think it's going to do it for this episode. We got a lot done today. We got bearings, we got brakes, we got bushings. Had to wait a little bit for parts in between time here, but we got it all handled. And I'm excited to start doing some prep work on the painting and some other things, and actually doing the reassembly on this guy. So now we've got all the kind of the difficult, the hurdles out of the way. We can start with the fun stuff and button this thing back up. I've got a lot of brand new parts I've ordered, and I think you're really going to like this one when we get to the final product. So stick around for that. I appreciate you watching. Make sure you check me out on Facebook at Kart Crazy, and also maybe subscribe if you haven't done that. Stick around for a little bit. We've got lots more to come on the channel. Always open to suggestions. You can email me or put a comment below or message me on Facebook. So I'd like to see what you guys have in mind maybe for a project coming up in the future. So we'll see you next time on Kart Crazy.